Hi everyone, I'm Kalani Das, your host and teacher here on the World Drum Club YouTube channel. This is another installment of Facilitation Fridays.
World Drum Club.
Now, as you know, in the past, I'm often relating the things I talk about with regard to music facilitation to other kinds of facilitation, whether that be facilitating a discussion or a meeting or a negotiation. So a lot of the skills that we're talking about here, the strategies, the principles, whatever you want to call them, can relate outside of music. I just want to make sure that we understand that. So moving forward, you can use these in multiple ways. It's not just limited to music. So last week I was running a music therapy session, as I do every week, at one of the local facilities for people with traumatic brain injuries. And I was kind of observing myself in the process, and that's something that I hope you're doing as a facilitator or a teacher or a presenter of some sort, so you don't get too lost in your own thinking and your own process, but you're able to, at times, kind of hover above, the room or the situation and examine yourself somewhat objectively. And that's also related to mindfulness practices. A lot of the mindfulness teachers suggest that you become an observer of the way you perceive things, right? To bring some objectivity. So that's what was happening. I was just examining, myself as a music therapist at the time, but let's just call it facilitation for general purposes. And I noticed that I was spending a little bit of time in a number of different areas, and I want to categorize these areas, and I think this could be helpful whether you're facilitating music or anything else. So here they are. So the first category is information. Now there's pros and cons to each one of these. They're all good, but we want to use each one of these effectively. So the first one is information. Now when you give people information, that's usually done in the form of visual or verbal instruction, right? We're transmitting data. Now, the upside is it gives people information, something to think about. It can place things in an imaginary context. But the downside is usually when that's happening, people are doing what? They're just listening to you. They're not really doing that much. It's kind of like watching TV, right? It may be exciting, it may be entertaining, but it's not necessarily that interactive because we're placing our participants into a student role and ourselves into a teacher role. So this is a lecture student kind of situation, and we want to be mindful of that because we don't want to spend a lot of time talking to people because they're not doing anything, right? They want to do things. They don't want to just hear you talk. So you have to be mindful of how and when and how much information you give. But you do need to give some information, whether it's talking about the background of something or the history of something or the reason you're doing something, right? So moving on, category number 2 would be to give people examples. So let's say I just said, oh, well, there's these rhythms from Cuba, and people play them in a style called rumba, and they use these instruments called claves, and let me show you. All right, so now we're going to demonstrate something for somebody, right? This is a little more interesting for people. Still, think about what they're doing. Now, you may be wrapped up in this, whatever you're doing, and because you're the one doing it, you're feeling like, wow, this is great. But you have to remember, your participants are still sitting there watching you, waiting. All right. Now, you can do things like if you're going to demonstrate something like claves, let's say you're going to play the clave rhythm for people and show them how something is done. So you're demonstrating, we're getting a little more closer, right? We're getting closer to the thing that we want to do. You can have them do body percussion, for example. You can have them synchronize with you, clapping while you're playing the claves. We can vocalize the rhythm together. So I would suggest that while you're demonstrating anything, give your participants a way to connect with you. They don't have to do exactly what you're doing, but let them become involved. All right. Then the next category is guidance, right? Is kind of helping people do it. So we're going to say, okay, I'm going to hand out sticks to everyone. Now we're all going to play. All right, now, hey, yes, now we finally, as participants, get to do the thing. But we might need some guidance. So your role as a facilitator would be to observe, check in on people, maybe give some hand over hand or mirroring guidance, visual guidance or physical guidance. You know, make sure people are getting it, that they're not off track. Then after that, and we're moving quick here. All right, so we've already covered lecture information, giving examples or demonstrations, guidance during, let's call it practice. You know, this is still kind of part of preparation. Guidance, helping people try things out. Then give people time to do it, right? You can call this practicing or just doing it, doing the thing, letting people play. Let's call it play because that's what it is, right? We play music. Now, during the playtime, we want to make sure that we stop doing the information part. We could continue to do the demonstration part, but without talking, because when we start talking, people have to start listening to us, and it uses a different kind of process, right? They have to think about what we're saying. What is he saying? I can't hear him because everybody's playing clave. So we don't want to do that. We do want to help people, maybe give some guidance, but in that playtime, what I recommend is just let people have an experience. Let people have their own experience without you. Because they need to teach themselves. You know, I often say every instrument will show you how to teach it, will show you how to play it. You are the teacher. You're your own teacher at that point, right? You need to spend time with it, figure it out. Now, I'm not saying that's forever and you're never going to help people again. Of course not. But there's a time to give people a chance to just do it, right? Just play. We want to play. Then you can go back to kind of the beginning again of the process. So we've covered 4 areas, right? Information, demonstrations, guidance, and playing. Just doing it. Letting people go, do, play on their own. Now, so we can circle back around to any of those things as needed. And that's what I was observing in myself kind of from above as I was working with the group and just noticing when was I giving information, when was I helping people by demonstrating things or showing them how to do something, when was I guiding them in doing it, and what was that like, how much of that was needed for individuals, because not everybody's the same. People need different amounts of guidance. And then how much time was I just letting people do it and kind of staying out of the way? So these are the 4 things that I'd like you to think about balancing, whether you're facilitating music, or it's a lesson, or it's for recreation, or you're some sort of group therapist, or you're running a meeting, or you're talking with friends, right? All these things could come into play. All right, so let's review again. We've got data or information. Usually when we're giving that out, we're talking like I am right now, and the participant, you, are listening. The participants are listening, not really doing too much. Then we've got demonstrations, right? Which is usually what we do on this channel. I show you something, and you can then get a better grasp of what it is because you're seeing an example, right? So we're providing examples, and you could say, ah, that's what he was talking about. I didn't really understand it when he was just using words, but now that I see it, at least I have an idea of what I need to go for. Then try it out, right? Practice. You're practicing, you get a chance to do it, and then I would provide guidance, making little corrections, you know, making sure your hands are in the right place and everything. Now that's something we can't do here, so I'm hoping you guys get a chance to play with live, you know, with a live teacher or with your peers so that you can help each other because you need to get some feedback. You can also, you know, of course, video yourself and watch it or use a mirror, which I've talked about in the past. Then we have just playing, right? Just doing the thing, enjoying it, no matter what, right? Wherever you are in your path, it's nice to have some time where you get to just do it without and this is for you music teachers out there, without having somebody hovering over your shoulder, telling you what you're doing wrong and stuff, because frankly, that is super annoying. If a student comes to you with a question, that's one thing, but we want to, and this is the last point I want to make, as facilitators, our role is not to correct people. Now, if somebody asks you for advice or help or assistance, that's one thing. We want to make sure we're not hovering, and talking in people's ears while they're trying to do something. It can be really distracting and counterproductive. So just let people play. Learning an instrument or learning any skill takes time. So as long as people are being safe, they're not hurting themselves, they're not hurting the instruments, let it be what it needs to be. And then over time, they'll figure it out. But we don't want to be, like a helicopter parent, right? Like a helicopter teacher, a helicopter facilitator following people around everywhere, shining a spotlight on them and going, hey, you're doing that. We don't want to be that. All right, so that's what I have for you guys today. I hope this is helpful. If it is, you know what to do. Click the subscribe button if you're not a member. We're getting awfully close. As of the making of this video, we're pushing up on 100,000 subscribers. Now, maybe we're already there by the time you're watching this, but I'm just saying, it's early 2019, and we're almost at 100,000. I want to just say that I really appreciate all of you who are subscribed, who are leaving kind comments and helpful comments. And if if this is the first video you're watching on World Drum Club, welcome. Welcome to the World Drum Club family. I really do appreciate it because there's a lot of information out there. We're on YouTube. There's endless things that you could be watching. So I appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with me. I know your time is valuable. That's all. I just wanted to say thank you. All right, I really appreciate you. Have fun with all of your facilitation goals. Let me know if this resonates with you in the comments. Make sure your comments are kind. You guys be nice to one another. Everybody complains about how online discourse can be a little rough. Well, it starts with you. All right? Go out and do great work. I'll see you guys in a future lesson.